Started.
Hey everyone, we are back on air. Thank you for bearing with us during that technical difficult moment. But I think we're live again, and we're going to kick it right off with Alexis, college recruiter at Zappos, who was kind of just telling us about the like culture at Zappos and what it's like to work in downtown Vegas. So, Alexis, do you want to get started?
Yeah, absolutely. So in 2013, we moved to downtown Las Vegas. So actually, like a really brief backstory, the company started in San Francisco and then moved to Las Vegas for the 24-hour town feel, right? Because we have a 24-hour call center. So we moved to Las Vegas, and for a long time, we were in Henderson, which is like a suburb of Las Vegas. And that was nice. It was great. We loved it. But in 2013, it was decided that we would move to downtown Las Vegas to kind of help with a revitalization, you could say. So downtown Las Vegas is really cool. Everybody thinks of Vegas and they think it's just the Strip, and we all live in hotels or something like that. But there's so much more to Vegas, and downtown is really more where the locals will hang out. There's a lot of really cool bars, a lot of really cool restaurants, and just new things that are popping up that really give Vegas a different kind of culture, or like a culture that you would expect in other cities that's outside of going to the Strip. So being in downtown has been really neat. We get to help local businesses grow, because if we go out to lunch for the day, we're going to go to a local business that has sprung up here in downtown Las Vegas. So we really get to help the community, help the city grow. So it's pretty cool.
Awesome. Yeah, I know you guys are doing great things in downtown Vegas to like revitalize the culture and make it like a really cool place to live and work.
Yeah.
How about the rest of you guys? Ian, are you from Vegas or did you relocate to live there?
No, I relocated. I'm originally from Mississippi, and so I moved here last June, and it's a big change. I really like it, one, from Mississippi because I'm from a really small town there, and so kind of that 24/7 feel here. There's always something going on. If I want to go do something, I don't have to, check times, drive a long way to go do something. I can go to a show anywhere I want to go. Like I said, there's always something going on, so I think it's great. And me and my wife, so far, I think I've only gone to the Strip a couple times. There's so much to do outside of that. Like Alexa said, there's always something on the Strip if you want to do that, but there's tons of stuff to do outside of that. So I think it's great.
Nice. Kirkby, what about you? Are you from Vegas or did you move to Vegas from somewhere else? And what do you think of it?
Yeah, I'm actually from Texas originally, but I spent 17 years prior to Vegas in Utah. Was working for Adobe there. When I came down here to Vegas, what convinced me, after I've been at Adobe for about 5 years, started looking for another job. Google had contacted me, asked me to apply for a position, and I thought if I'm going to look for other jobs, I want to find companies that are higher than Adobe on the Fortune 100's best company to work for. And happened to be that I had a friend who was working at Zappos at the time, who tried to convince me to at least apply and to come check it out. And sure enough, I came down, and what convinced me to take the job at Zappos was reading Tony's book, and going back to the culture question that before we had the break that Alexis was talking about. What I saw in there was a culture of personal responsibility. There was certainly a lot of things to get you distracted here at Zappos, and nobody was micromanaging that. It was, are you going to get your job done? And if you are, then there's no reason why you shouldn't have fun. And that really appealed to me, that level of professionalism. And so I moved my family. Like I said earlier, I have 6 kids. And as Ian pointed out, it's not just the Strip. Obviously, I'm not really too excited about my kids being on the Strip, but they don't have to be, right? There's we live in a place called Henderson at the base of Black Mountain. So there's a lot of places to hike. There's Mount Charleston. There's actually even snow right on top of Mount Charleston right now. So people are interested in that. There's a vibrant cycling community. I know that because, well, I used to be a cyclist. I don't do it much anymore. We actually even have a race that we participate frequently at Zappos, which is a bike ride from Salt Lake City all the way down to Vegas. So it's a good place to raise my family.
Awesome. And then Mel, how about you? When did you start working for Zappos?
Yeah, so I actually moved from Ohio. It was right out of college after I graduated. I was fortunate enough to be interviewing and get the job. But like most of us, I never thought in a million years I would end up in Las Vegas, Nevada. But I must say that I'm so happy because it's the best of both worlds. So I grew up where there was literally stoplights, or one stoplight. So very farm town. But here, it's the best of both worlds because you have the amenities of a city. Everything is always open. There's always something to do. There's a concert. There's an event. But also, I live in a suburb that is very homey. And I have dogs in a backyard. So I think that it's just a mixture of everything I wanted. And I didn't realize until I came to Zappos. But what also helped is because we're so big on culture here, it honestly feels like I work with 1,500 family members. And I must say that that's what made moving here so easy because I come to work and not only have my coworkers, but all of them are my friends, my true friends. So it helped, with being away. You can't go home for every holiday. And we always had like Friendsgiving and Easter together. And I am so happy with the decision that I moved here.
Friendsgiving is the best.
And I'll say, because I know, we'll be talking about it, but with our internship program, we really do try to showcase like the cool things about Vegas. So during the 10 weeks that an intern is here during the summer, we will take them to do events and activities, right? So we take them to go hiking up at Mount Charleston, right, which is about maybe 45-minute drive from here, and there's actually snow and things like that. But we'll go hiking up at Mount Charleston, or we're really big on community service here at Zappos. Like, it's really important to us to get back to our community. So we'll take the interns on what we call a karma adventure, which is basically going and helping out one of the local charities that we support. So, for example, the last 2 years, we took the interns to 3 Square, which is our local food bank, right? And it's just volunteering your hours, but it's just showing how important it is to like give back to the community that we live in. We'll also take the interns out for like a boat day on the water, Lake Mead or the Colorado River or something like that. Again, just to really showcase that this city offers everything. It's awesome.
Nice. And so you guys have like touched on culture a lot so far, but curious, like Alexis, like why is culture such an important part of Zappos' life?
Gosh, because it really just makes up everything, right? So culture is not something that you can be told to do, right? So it can't be like, Tony can't be like, you have to act this way, and people will do it, right? Culture is...
He's kind of a badass. I don't know. I'd probably do whatever Tony said.
I mean, in that way, I probably would too, but in terms of people and their values and their characteristics, like, it doesn't work that way, right? It has to come from everybody. So every single person who gets hired on here is an important part of that culture. And like I was saying earlier, it stems off of those 10 core values. So really, we look for those kind of characteristics in people who work here. So, things like humility, team and family spirit. I mean, we are so collaborative. We are, heavily into teamwork. I mean, just about everybody here, I would say, has probably found a family member just from working here at Zappos. Not like an actual family member, but like, this person is now a part of my family, right? And if the culture wasn't right, then those things wouldn't exist. So that's really why culture is of the utmost importance to us here at Zappos.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I'll add to that Zappos is really a culture leader. It's been something that we've been focusing on since early on. And if you go and look at, like, go to business school, and they'll do case studies on the culture trend and how to get a culture right inside a corporation in order to then do what the purpose of the corporation is. Zappos is always mentioned in that. We're always mentioned as a leader. Literally, I would argue that Tony changed the world in that respect by focusing on culture and then having other companies follow suit. So.
I think it's important in that those 10 core values that we always talk about didn't come from Tony. They didn't just come from one person. They weren't mandated by the company. Hey, this is the culture. Everyone fit into it. That's something that came from the company, and it really shows.
Very grassroots.
Awesome. So maybe, Alexis, you could give us a little bit of background on, like, the 10-week internship. When does it start? What's it like? What can an intern expect, during their first week? That kind of thing.
Yeah, sure. So this year, our internship lasts for 10 weeks. So it starts June 13th and it ends August 19th. And so kind of like a little background, this will be our 5th summer having interns. So, we're kind of getting in the groove of having interns here, and they've been a really huge part of our company. It's been awesome. So basically, kind of to get started, our application window is actually open right now. And so students have until February 5th to apply for our internships. And we have, I think, 7 positions that are listed on the site right now to apply to. So if anybody is interested, anybody who's watching, go now, internships.zappos.com to go apply. And basically anybody who applies, we give you a technical challenge and a virtual interview. So we kind of change things up a little bit because we don't travel to college campuses like most models do, because we find that great talent can really come from all over the place. Like sometimes we get the brightest stars from the smallest schools that you've never even heard of. And so that kind of made us make this change to really open everything up nationwide, right? So we also don't look at GPA, we don't look at major, because we don't think that those are just pure indicators of like whether you're a good worker or not, or whether you have the skills or the passion, right? We have candidates who, for example, for software engineering, we've had candidates, maybe their major is chemical engineering, but they've taught themselves how to code on the side, and they just didn't change their major because it would have added on an extra 2 years of school or something, right? So those are reasons that we don't look at that. We would much rather give you the chance to show us your stuff, right? So everybody who applies, virtual interview and technical challenge, and then they have to submit that by a certain date. And then we kind of go through a screening process from there. So it's myself, Kirsten, who is our program manager, and then Rocky, who is our coordinator. We kind of screen through everything, the virtual interviews, and then from there, the team basically picks their top 3 to 4 candidates, and we'll fly them out here to Zappos for like a 2-day immersion interview experience. And again, that's really to make sure that they get to know Zappos, because sometimes this place isn't a fit for everybody, and that's totally okay. We would much rather somebody find that out now than halfway through their internship, right? So those 2 days are really critical, and then, of course, we fly them back out for what we like to call the best 10 weeks of your life. So the internship itself, sorry, I'm talking a lot, but
that's great information.
Is really cool. So the first week, basically the college recruiting team, so myself, Kirsten, Rocky, we onboard the interns who come in and basically just try to show them you know, the culture, things like our call center, because again, customer service is the crux of our business. The rest of us wouldn't be having jobs if it weren't for our customers, so we really try to show how important that side is. We have them take some classes because we have our own internal education system, right? Basically just getting them into Zappos. And then from there, they're kind of like released to their teams, and there's no coffee runs here for interns. I mean, unless they really want to get coffee because we have our own cafe on campus, but it's real work, right? It's anybody who came in to do that entry-level job would be doing the same exact thing. Like the intern would be doing the same exact thing. So it's really learning the skills, really doing the work that you know, somebody in that position would do. I think one of our interns last year, he like built the 6 p.m. mobile application. That was his project during his internship. So
Crazy.
and that's like a real like that is something that we have to use. So you know, you're doing important work, you're doing purposeful work, things like that. So I think that's really what makes our internship kind of stand apart. And then those events I was talking about earlier, you know, we kind of make sure that they can grow as a team, that the interns can bond, and then really see what Vegas is like.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that like overview. Now I want to hear from someone who did the internship. Ian, you were an intern on, was it the software side?
Yes, I worked on the iOS mobile application, so I interned with the mobile team 2 summers ago now, so in 2014. And yeah, Alexis did a really good job of covering the basics of it, but it was an amazing experience. Obviously, I liked it. I came back. And so I guess a brief overview of what I did was just like Alexis said. I got here and we had our 1-week kind of intro. Everyone in the company, I think really interesting is everyone in the company goes through the same training when you first come here. It doesn't matter, like I'm a software developer. There are people who are hired for merchandising, buying products, people who are hired specifically to work in the call center for customer service, and everyone goes through the same training. It's like a month-long training. And so our first week of our internship was kind of a shortened version of that, where we got to get a feel for everything in the company. So even though I was going to be working on software, I got to interact with people in different departments, learn about what they do, and kind of get a whole overview of how the company works as a whole. And then as soon as that was over with, I jumped right in and I was working alongside the other, at the time there was only one other iOS developer, and I was working alongside him. And the changes I was making, the bugs I was fixing, the features I was adding were released and being used almost immediately. As soon as we were updating the app, I had live changes that I had made that were being used by a huge user base, which was really cool. Because coming in as an intern, I had no idea what I'd be doing. I figured I'd just be stuck, you know, working on some small project that didn't have a big effect on the company. But I got to work on exactly like Alexa said, the exact same project that a normal employee would work on, and I got to see my work used by thousands of people, which was really cool.
That's huge. So during that time, like, could you tell us maybe like the funniest or most memorable part of the internship, or a day that stuck out to you?
Funniest might be hard. We had a lot of people. I think we had 3 different people who turned 21 here in Vegas, so there's probably something we should share. But there are lots of good experiences. We had a really cool setup. It's different, I know, every year, but where we lived, we were housed in an apartment complex not too far from here, and we had a commons area that was really good. So every day we got to spend hanging out, playing bocce ball or ping pong or whatever, just sitting around the fire pit as a group of all the interns. And I guess what stuck out the most to me were probably, other than the activities that Alexis talked about, those were really great because I got to interact with the rest of the interns. I think something really neat is we did a culture project. So throughout the whole internship, we had a project where we got together with other interns and we worked on some project for the company. It was completely unrelated to the normal work I did as a software developer, and it wasn't working with only other tech people. I worked with people in different departments, other interns, so I got to interact with them and see the things they did, and we got to all collaborate and work try and come up with a project that could improve the culture of Zappos. And I think that was great because then at the end of the semester, I guess, the end of the internship, we got to present that to and the other upper executives of the company and get feedback from them directly. So it was a really neat experience to see how the process would go. If I want to make a change in the company, I'm free to work on that and present it to people who will actually listen and consider it. So that was really neat.
Awesome. So Mel, you've been a little bit quiet, but I know you're not normally quiet. So tell us a little bit about your team, merchandising, buyers, and what that internship is all about.
Yeah, so I'm a buyer for 6 p.m. and it's a little bit different than Zappos in a good way because at Zappos there's a whole marketing team and an email promotion team, and at 6 p.m. we're a smaller team. So essentially I'm buying the product, but I'm pricing the product, and I'm suggesting how to market the product. So it's such an amazing opportunity because I kind of wear many hats. But I can honestly say that being a buyer for 6 p.m., you wear many hats because you're getting exposure to so many aspects of the business that you wouldn't normally in the position. And with our self-organization, an intern really is our partner. They're not just doing meaningless tasks. We really want to test them and have them benefit our business because as true Zappos fashion, it doesn't matter what level you are or who you are. If you have a great idea and you let someone know, we're going to go through with it and try it out. And that's what I love so much about it. So I just think our internship position, I envy it. I wish I would have known about it in college because I had the infamous non-paid New York City one where I was getting coffee. And here, they learn so much. You're not only going to retail math class, but you're doing actual things that we do as buyers day to day because we need your support. So I think it's a great experience, which is why to think I was here. I've only been here for 2.5 years. I feel like the skill set I've gained is probably 5 years. So I just think it's a great experience, especially with the culture and the experience you'll gain.
Awesome. Okay, so Liz just wrote in, and by the way, you guys, you can feel free to write in your questions. Any students who are watching out there who want to ask some questions to any of these fine people at Zappos about the internship program, feel free to tweet at us at Looksharp and at Zappos, at Internships with the hashtag Internships, and we will ask your questions live. Liz just wrote in, she wants to know from Mel, what are some of like the emerging fashion trends that you guys are all about right now?
I would say 70s inspired. So fringe and suede is everywhere, whether it be on a handbag, it be a poncho with fringe tassels at the bottom for the winter, suede boots. I really think it's just one of those boho chic trends that transition from the festival season in the summer, and they kind of transition into fall and winter because it's able to be layered and still look fun. So I think that the 70s fashion is huge, whether it be clogs, fringe boots, or hats, as you can see, my hat reference again. But that's probably my favorite because it's so transitional and it can go from fall, winter to summer if you want to go to Coachella.
For sure. That's awesome. Cool. So curious a little bit more about the housing situation, because I know that's on everybody's mind. Is it as cool as it sounds, just a big house full of interns, or how does that all work?
Yeah, so we do provide housing, by the way, so key point. We do our best to really try to provide housing at no cost to our interns. And, we really take feedback from the interns from past years to just kind of try to find something that fits with everybody. So our housing had actually been different every year. So, for example, the very first year they stayed in an extended stay hotel, and where they had maids coming around and cleaning their rooms. So they actually had to pay a little bit out of their paycheck from that. So then in years from that, Ian's class, they got to stay in an apartment complex that wasn't really occupied, so they got the whole grounds, right? Last year, the intern stayed at the Gold Spike, which is right across the street from Zappos, so it's a really easy walk. All I had to do is walk across the street, right? So this year we're looking into some new options. It does take a while for us to kind of nail housing down. But we're really excited about the options that we might have this year. But know that it is provided. We do take care of you. It is close to work, so that interns can walk to work. So yeah.
Awesome. Sounds like a sweet setup.
It is, and it's in the middle of downtown Las Vegas. So they can not only can they walk to work, but they can walk to all the restaurants that are going on. The zip lining that's on Fremont Street. You want to go zip lining? It's a 5-minute walk. So fun stuff like that. It's in the middle of everything.
So Kirkby, maybe I will direct this question to you. We've seen a lot in the news lately about holacracy. Could you talk a little bit about that? What does that mean, and how does Zappos encompass it?
Yeah, I'm more than happy to do that. It's interesting. I'm a huge fan of the idea of self-organization. Self-organization, to summarize it, means that it is a recognition that with the large influx of information that we have in our society, that the hierarchy model of running a business is no longer valid in making the best decisions, right? In the past, you had people who were doing the work, would report to their boss, so forth and so on, and at some layer, somebody would make the decision and it would come down. We're finding out in business nowadays that that's too slow, and there's also way too much information for any one person or even a small group of people to be able to make those decisions. And that's something that, when you look in business trends for a while, they have been really trying to figure out how to distribute that authority. So self-organization is a way to do that, and holacracy is a system that we're using at Zappos in order to try to bring some of that concepts in. And self-organization basically means that authority that was up here is now distributed to the people who actually are closest to the work. They are now more empowered to make decisions about what they do and about how it's done, without having to get any kind of permission from somebody else.
Cool. Ian, how does that self-management style kind of translate for you and on your team? Do you enjoy it? Is it challenging?
I do. It gives us a lot of liberty to make changes we want to make. One of my first, memories of coming to work here at Zappos, when I first started the internship, the other iOS developer was adding in a credit card scanner. So, it stinks when you're in an app having to type in your full credit card. Lots of apps have a credit card scanner. So we were adding one in ourselves. Nice. And he was like, okay, that's cool, but we want to do something fun with it. And so he decided to add in, if you've never done it, you should do it in the Zappos app. It's really fun. If you scan a credit card, a cat pops up from the bottom and lasers come out of its eyes and scan your credit card. So it's something simple, but it's something you'll never see in what you'd think of a normal big company.
Right.
No one would allow that. No project manager would be like, no, that's cool, go ahead and put that in there. But he didn't have to ask. He was like, this would be really fun. I'm going to do this. And so, he talked to our designer. He's like, hey, I need a cat so I can put it in here and do this. And he played around with it and added it in. And I've seen that continues, especially with the move to holacracy. I feel like I have the freedom to make changes. Obviously, there's some safety in there, but I'd run it by my coworkers. If I'm going to do something that's going to impact the company negatively, obviously someone would stop me. But if I want to try something, we're like, hey, we don't know how that's going to work out, but it sounds like an okay idea, sure. I'm free to make that change, and it's really fun because, I've only been here a year total with the internship, and my full-time experience here, but I'm able to make changes that directly affect the company. So I think it's amazing, and there's very few companies that will allow you to do that.
That's awesome. So Mel, this one's for you. It sounds like you guys have like a lot of fun, and with this holacracy approach, like a lot of autonomy in terms of like the projects you work on and the stuff that you do. How, like, do you find that it's easy to do like the work-life balance thing, or is that like challenging? Do you guys get any work done with all of the fun you're having? Maybe you could take that one.
Yeah. So it sounds like we don't work, but I know firsthand this has been a really busy week for me. But I think that because we have so much going on, and we have a lot of events with culture that's surrounded by it, I think in turn it's made you manage time management better, because you realize how to utilize your time more wisely rather than sitting at your desk, kind of getting off topic. How some people are on Facebook and you see them and they're at their job and you're like, okay, what are you doing? I just feel like because we have so much fun, it makes you want to work harder and get your job done. And really, it depends. Even if you have a happy hour, I will get my stuff done in the morning, or I have the liberty to go home and finish it. So I just feel like it makes the day go by better and the weeks faster, because you're adding that fun. You're just not 9 to 5 sitting at your computer desk looking at the time. You really are looking at the time like, wow, where did the time go? So I think it's great because a lot of people don't want to go to work in the morning, and they're always counting down till Friday. And I feel like here we're kind of like, oh crap, it's Friday. Like you
Yeah.
really don't know where the week goes.
Yeah. Oh, it's 5 o'clock
Yeah,
already?
yeah.
Like, what happened?
That's amazing. Alexis, anything to add to that, and how holacracy can benefit an
I'll
intern?
just say from like the intern point of view, like Mel had kind of touched on it a little earlier, but really the benefit of like as an intern coming into a self-organized system means that if you kind of have the same kind of autonomy, I mean, people are here to guide you, people are here to mentor you, like we're all huge resources and we're here to help as well. But if you have an idea, like you can run it by us and we'll be like, great, that's a great idea, like go do it. We want you to go and like implement your ideas. In all honesty, it really comes down to, as long as it's not going to, harm us as a company or move us backwards, then we kind of move forward with it. And interns can totally be involved in that as well. And, for an intern, they are in an 8-hour day. Like they do have to work there like 8 hours. So they're not allowed to go home and work on anything really. But that balance is really important, and we do try to stress that, for an intern coming in, it is about balance. Like we want you to participate in the fun stuff. We want you to do all of these great things, but you want to get your work done as well, right? And it really kind of helps prepare you for that kind of balance.
Awesome. That's really cool. So I'm getting a lot of questions about like, how do I land an internship at Zappos? Like maybe each of you could talk about maybe a tip or trick that you would recommend that helps college students be successful in either their application or their interview. Kirkby, do you want to kick this off?
Yeah, I mean, I've never been an intern here, so I haven't been successful at it, but I have evaluated a few. So I would say, I mean, we look for people who are competent, obviously, right? So the technical skill set, you want to make sure you brush up on those and make sure that those are top notch. I don't think that that's much different than any place else. I don't know, with this move to self-organization, I know that the things that I'm very interested in is what sort of questions you may ask around self-organization. It's kind of a bizarre and strange thing to deal with, and my guess is anybody who doesn't have questions about it probably isn't paying attention to what it is. And so I'd be interested to hear what sort of questions somebody would have about self-organization, and what even concerns that they would have with it. I even said yesterday that anybody who doesn't have concerns about self-organization probably doesn't even understand it. So asking those kinds of poignant questions, even about the culture, that's pretty much what I look for. I think Ian actually was successful as an intern candidate. You may have some better insights than me.
Well, it's interesting, I guess, now being on the other side of it, I get to help review those applications that we do receive. And I guess a plug for that, we do have an iOS intern spot available still, so you should apply. It's awesome. Come work with me and my team and do lots of fun things other than work as well. But I guess the biggest thing that we look for in it is being passionate about the work. Yes, you have to be technically competent. You have to know what you're doing. We're not just going to hire you and train you. But if you are passionate about it, you might not be as technically capable as someone else. If you are passionate about the work you want to do and that shows, then we're going to be more willing to work with you. Even if, like I said, even if you're not the most technically competent person in that field, and for us, for example, I guess in iOS development, we're going to want to work with you because it shows. We're all, on my team at least, we're all very passionate about what we do. We don't sit at a computer and program because we just want, a job. We do it because that's what we want to do and that's what we enjoy. So we want to work with other people who enjoy what they do as well.
Yes, shout out to being passionate in your interview and asking a lot of questions. That's like, for me, number one as someone who interviews and hires at Looksharp. It's, it makes all the difference. So how about you, Mal? Maybe a tip that someone can use to land the internship?
Yeah, I think that it's so great at Zappos because we want you to come to work and come as yourself. We don't want you to leave yourself at home. And I read Tony's book as well before I interviewed him. That's what I was so passionate about, is that the core values were my morals in my day-to-day life. And I was so passionate about the job, but also I could be myself. And I think a lot of times in an interview, you're trained and practice your interview questions. But at Zappos, we really want to see your passion and your technical side, but also we want to know that you're bringing yourself to the interview. We want to see your personality. So I just feel like some people seem guarded because, in most interviews you kind of do need to be professional and answer the questions, but here we're really looking to see all aspects. We want to see personally, do you fit in? Are you comfortable? What are you going to bring to the table? And also the passion, as they talked about.
Cool. Alexis?
Yeah, I mean, they all kind of summed everything up like really nicely because, I was going to talk about passionate, being yourself, like those, we can't stress enough like how important those aspects are, and that's what we want to see. But really, just it's the soft skills aspect as well. Technical skills, hard skills, because that's what you're going to school for. It's super, super important. But it's really those soft skills that are going to make you stand apart from anybody else, really, your personality, how are you working with the team, things like that, really honing, communication is huge. So I think really honing in on those soft skills is equally as important as honing in on the technical skills.
Cool. Good advice. Alexis, talk a little bit about the eligibility requirements. Can just anybody do an internship at Zappos, or who are you kind of looking for specifically?
Yeah, so our only eligibility requirements are that you must currently be enrolled at an accredited U.S. university or college, pursuing at least a bachelor's degree. But that includes masters, that includes PhD students as well. They're more than welcome to apply. It just has to be at least a bachelor's. And in any program, they just have to be on track to graduate between May 2016, so this year, and June 2017. So we're really looking for people more in junior, senior status.
Got it. And so where can people apply again?
Yep, so if you fall within that criteria and this totally piques your interest, go to internships.zappos.com. There's a huge green button that's in the middle of the page that says apply here. Just click on that and it'll take you to the positions that we have available. You can apply for more than one position if you would like. Just know that as I said before, we send you a technical challenge, virtual interview. Those just need to be completed for each position in order to be considered as an applicant. So those things do need to be completed to get your application considered.
Got it. Thanks. So Mel, this one's for you. Jennifer Castro wrote in and is wondering, like, what's the usual workday like for someone on the merchandising team?
Well, Jennifer and everyone listening, ultimately there are the same tasks that you need to do day to day. So for instance, I could be writing purchase orders, communicating with vendors, communicating with the team, looking at your product, analyzing your product, how well it's doing, creating ways to do promotions on the site, seeing how they did. Ultimately, every day is so different that even though you may have a to-do list or meetings on your calendar, you really never know what the day is going to turn out like. So I think that it's great because it keeps you on your toes and also helps with your time management. So not every day is the same, which is good because you would get bored. But it also is just trial and error too. So every day is different. We have our same tasks that are due. However, you're always learning something new. There's always a new task to do. And also because we're self-motivators, you can even come up with your own projects and take those initiatives. So just because it's not in the realm doesn't mean can't be done.
Yeah, and I would say that's, and maybe even the guys can confirm, but I would say for just about every team around here, like no day is the same. Like, there's just always something different that's happening. So even though, as Mel said, you have the same tasks to do, to get your work done, I never do the same thing every day. Like, it's just always something different to just, again, achieve the goal of that is your job. So.
Right, and I would say that that's actually sort of what we really want to have happen for self-organization, right? Because every day you should be asking yourself, what is the best use of my time right now in order to forward the purpose of the company? And so that changes on a regular basis.
Cool. And what's the total intern class size? People are asking about that a lot.
Oh, yes. So we have 32 interns for this summer.
Awesome.
32. It's a good size. It's the most we've ever had was 42 interns. That was actually Ian's class. And we found that that was probably the cap of, have it, just big enough to have a lot of people come in and experience it, but they are still able to grow closely as a group. So it's still, with 32, we're still going to have a good size to where you can really bond and make those connections here at work and not have it be, so many people that you just never meet another intern or something like that.
Yeah, that's a perfect size in my opinion.
Yeah.
So Ian, as someone who was on the internship, team last year, maybe talk about what your application process was like. Were there any funny moments in terms of the video interview or any of the rest?
Sure. So I guess I assume it's still pretty similar from what they've said, but I applied, and I actually applied for 2 positions because I was interested in iOS development, but I hadn't done anything in school on it. I just, dabbled in it on my own. So I applied for just a generic software engineering position and the iOS position. And it is like you said, you'll do double the work because you'll get a video, the virtual interview, where you're asked several questions and you record your responses. So that's an interesting experience. I was going to school. Once again, I'm from a small town in Mississippi, so I drove about 50 minutes to school where I went at Ole Miss. And so when I needed to record that interview, I was actually just going to do it on campus because I was on campus most of the day. And so I had to find just an empty little conference room and hope no one walked in while I was recording. And so that was a little, nerve-wracking. But yeah, so you record your responses, do all that, and then I was received a technical challenge for both of those positions where I think that's kind of key, especially for tech-related positions. I think it's great. Because, yeah, on my resume or on my list of classes, I had nothing to show I had iOS experience, but I was able to show technically that I was able to do it by being able to perform a small technical challenge. So I think it's a really great process for you to show your strengths. Like they said, they don't care what your major is. We don't care what your GPA is. We care about what you're passionate about and what you're good at doing, and that really shows through that process. And I think the main thing there, it's like everyone said, you just have to be yourself. It can be a little weird when you're recording responses to a virtual interview because there's no one there and you're just sitting in an empty room talking. But as long as you're yourself, that really shows, and you're not trying to portray something you're not.
Cool. Alexis, this one is for you. What's the potential for full-time employment after graduation if you do the internship this summer?
Yeah, great question. So it's, Ian was able to convert to a full-time employee afterwards, and we've had quite a few interns who were given the opportunity to be able to convert to a full-time role. So it is a goal of ours, but it is never a guarantee. And so that's just like something that we have to push. Like, we have to let all of our interns and candidates know, like, unfortunately it's not a guarantee that you can get a full-time position right afterwards, but it's definitely a goal. And I'll tell you, I mean, we, even if something isn't available right after the internship, like, if you are, a rock star in your position and you're an awesome culture fit and, people just loved you while you were here as an intern. Kirsten in particular, who is not on, but she's our program manager and she's awesome. I mean, I've seen her fight tooth and nail to have some interns come back for, full-time positions. And, even if that means it might be 2 years down the line because we just don't have the perfect position, if you belong here, we'll work to get you here for sure. It's just not guaranteed right after the internship.
Got it. Okay, cool. And then maybe, like, Alexis, you guys have 7 positions open right now. We don't need you to go through every one of them, but just talk a little bit about the different departments and what each is kind of looking for.
Sure. So we have merch assistant, 6 p.m. So that would be working with Mel. So you got kind of a good idea of what that is about. With Ian and Kirby there. So we have iOS development. So as Ian's been talking about, we have software engineering. And so software engineering is kind of cool because you can kind of just come in and there might be a myriad of projects and you can kind of work on maybe what you're passionate about. We also have user experience design and user research. So, really taking the data about our customers and making some impact with that, right, in terms of like the tech and website side of things. We also have business operations and analytics, and this is like a really different hybrid position. So it's kind of like a hybrid between merchandising and tech, actually. So they work really closely with like our merch planners, things like that. And search engine marketing, I think, is the other one that we have open. So that kind of falls under like direct marketing, working with things like product listing ads, things like that, heavily into Excel, again, kind of data driven. So that's what we have available right now.
Awesome. Okay, cool. I'm just looking at all these questions rolling in. Malene is wondering if students can receive college credits as part of the internship. Is that something that you offer?
That's something that we would just have to work with the student on an individual basis. We have in the past, filled out the paperwork or whatnot. So it is possible. We would just have to work with the student. But on that note, I should probably also point out, because I don't think we've mentioned it, that all of our internships are paid, like super absolutely paid. It's awesome. It's wonderful. And if you actually do apply for one of the internships, when I send out the information, like the virtual interview, the technical challenge, we actually tell people to pay right up front. So you can find that information out easily, like what the position actually pays. And along with that understanding, cost of living here in Vegas is on average like 65% lower than a lot of other places. So it's really cheap to live here in Vegas. So your money goes really far, except if you shop on Zappos, because interns also get to take advantage of our 40% off discount. So a lot of their paychecks happen to just buy stuff, on the Zappos website, because who doesn't want new shoes during the summer?
Right.
Yeah. But
Cool.
they are all paid. All internships are paid.
Awesome. Thank you for noting that. That's so much better than college credits, but cool that you can do both.
Yeah.
Nice. So Michael is asking if he can apply even if he's a high school student. That is super ambitious, assuming you have is it a junior or senior?
So unfortunately, we wouldn't be able to accept for high school students. This is only for college students in that junior-senior status, because they do need to be pursuing at least a bachelor's degree. And that's just because when you're pursuing a bachelor's degree, it does come with a certain level of experience that we would need a candidate to have to be able to actually execute the tasks at hand.
Totally fair. Shout out to Michael, though. You're a very ambitious high school.
Let me tell you, and we're expanding our programs, because again, we've really only been operating for about 5 years. So on the horizon, one day, we would love to have a high school internship program. So I think, in a few years, it's something that we can definitely help establish. It's not up and running right now, but it's definitely on the forefront of, something in the future.
So I'm going to throw this out there because I'm really curious. If he is a software engineer, is there a way that you can get him my information? Because I'd actually like
Absolutely. We'll hook you guys up.
Yeah, thanks.
Love it. Cool. Well, there's a few other questions, but I really think you guys have answered all of them. This has been super helpful. Of course, everybody can continue, asking questions. Stay in touch with Zappos on Twitter at Internships, and of course, stay in touch with Looksharp. Any last kind of thoughts or messages that you kind of want to share, guys, with the student audience out there?
I'll just add on to that if anybody does have any questions for us as well, they can always email us at internships@zappos.com, and we're happy to answer anything that they might have in relation to our internships, of course. So internships@zappos.com, great place to email, and we'll answer, help you out, whatnot, and then go apply at internships.zappos.com.
Awesome. That sounds great. Sounds like a plan. I think lots of people are already starting their applications right now. Shout out to the college recruiting team at Zappos, because you're about to be very busy. But cool. I think that's everything, guys. That's a wrap. Thank you so much for your time, and looking forward to seeing you all again soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Anna.
All right. Bye.
Bye.